Have you ever wanted to design your own app, website, or blog? These days, we use them without a second thought. They have become an integral part of both the human experience and the financial market. It's easy to come up with an idea for a new viral app, but not as easy to make that app a reality, or so you might think. That's where Figma comes in. Figma is a free collaborative UI/UX design tool that can help you design a wide range of interfaces in great detail, and we are here to teach you how. In this course, you're going to learn everything about user interface design with Figma. Step by step, we'll cover everything you need to know from opening the program for the very first time to finalizing your finished design. You'll learn all the tools as well as how and when to use them. We'll also cover everything you'll need to be able to collaborate with other web developers easily through its collaborative features. During the course, you will learn about the principles of user interface design in order to design with purpose, as well as the principles of human-computer interaction. Finally, we'll teach you how to adapt to specific project requirements, as well as how to wireframe in order to turn your design into a functional prototype. So why pick this course? There are dozens of courses out there. Here's why ours is the best. For starters, it's a comprehensive guide that will take you from an absolute beginner to designing professional interfaces, whether they're for an app, website, or a blog. More importantly, this course doesn't just focus on the tools of the program. You'll learn a lot about the principles behind professional interface design so that your prototypes meet the industry standards and are appealing to your intended users. Secondly, we don't just teach you the theory. Each step of the way is accompanied by an on-screen example or exercise with a demonstration at the very end to tie everything you've learned together. Finally, the course is designed and taught by a UI/UX designer with years of experience, not only in editing, but also in teaching. That's what makes it easy to follow and master even for a complete beginner. So if you want to learn to design interfaces like a pro, this is the course for you. I promise you, you won't regret it.
The things that you will be learning in this course includes the overall complete usage of Figma. This includes a lot of features such as designing, collaborating on projects through it, and receiving feedback directly from it. Now, if you don't have a great idea on what Figma is, I will firstly get into the concept of user experience, or UX in short. UX designs are a little different than just straight up web or app design. In fact, it gets us to dive into the customer's world and understanding their needs and pain points. When figuring out your target audience, you should consider working on different points, such as building a concept, brainstorming, and gathering information. After creating a specific target audience, we then start creating user flows, which navigates how a user is likely to use the product in assumed scenarios. After that, we would start creating wireframes, which are usually low-fidelity gray boxes and layouts. Wireframes are usually made to help you plan the overall placement and layout of your content, so it would be an extremely general draft without thinking too much about details like colors, fonts, designs, and so on and so forth. These details would be taken care of in the next step, which is prototyping. The concept of prototyping demonstrates how the blog, application, website, or anything you're working on will look like to the users and what actions or windows pop up when people tap on a button, for example. After going through such process, you would want to confirm with your potential audience or clients about the product's functionality, which takes place in the final step of testing and sharing for feedback. In this step, you would be gathering any comments regarding your work and then start to make changes accordingly. After receiving your feedback, you then send your work to front and back-end developers in order for them to build your product. All of the steps that start from wireframing up to feedback adjustment are easily done with the usage of Figma. To elaborate more on the program, Figma calls itself a collaborative interface design tool. This means that people would use it to design whichever type of project they want, all while creating a prototype and sharing it within the program itself. Through Figma, you would be able to create components such as symbols, You can apply effects such as drop shadows or blurs. You're able to create artboards, which are called frames in Figma, and they also have pages, which we will discuss and learn about later on. Another feature that Figma offers is versioning, which is similar to other design programs such as Adobe Photoshop, where you can jump back drastically to an old version if you don't like something that you have created. A feature that makes Figma stand out the most amongst other prototyping programs and applications, though, is the sharing feature, where you're able to collaborate with people within a project and see them work on it with you at the same time. This gives greater and more flexible access to team projects, especially with the commenting feature, where you can very easily and directly receive any notes regarding your work. Finally, aside from its main purpose, which is prototyping, you're able to help the team who will be building your work, such as front and back end developers, like I mentioned earlier, by copying codes of certain features or objects within the prototype of the design. I will be very obviously demonstrating that within the course. Now, there are countless of tools out there for user experience and user interface design, but Figma's collaborative feature makes it the most beneficial out of that variety. And in this course, I want to introduce you to Figma and get you up and running with the concepts and features you'll need to know in order to start your first design project in Figma. In this course, we will be covering some important topics in the user experience world. This includes this very brief introductory class, discussing how to shape and understand your audience with user research, as well as discussing user interface principles. So, after the introduction phase of this course, you should expect to proceed into the usage and creation in Figma much more efficiently. Afterwards, we will look into the process of drafting, which starts with mapping users' journey in order to plan what we would want to create in Figma, and then get into the program straight away. We will later be going through the first phase of user interface design, which is wireframing, and afterwards we will look more into the prototyping phase, where we will have denser practical work classes. The prototyping phase will be covering every feature you have access to on Figma, and after that we will apply everything mentioned in the course together. Throughout all of the chapters of the course, I will be assigning you some practical work or some discussions that you can answer in order to keep everything you've learned fresh in your memory. Participation is optional but 100% encouraged. For example, I would like to ask you guys now, what feature are you most excited to learn about in this course? As a conclusion, we have a fair amount of topics to touch on, and in order to cover them all very easily, our next lesson will be covering the base of user interface design in order to be able to build up an entire successful project. So, good luck, and let's get right into the course. In an industry devoted to specific groups of people who will be using your product, service, or application, research is the key to reaching them in the most efficient way possible. We ask questions, take notes, and try to grasp any kind of information we can obtain. Then we test our work's functionality throughout the design process. So, what is UX research? UX research, or as it is sometimes called, design research, serves countless purposes throughout the design process. It helps us identify what the audience needs in order to navigate through our model, and then it shapes the purpose of creating such model, as in why we're designing the specific application. Maybe you're designing a health tracking application, for example, so you would define your application and plan its purpose by defining a distinct feature, such as maybe easy for adults to use. All in all, research improves our work, understanding, and the practicality of our products. As UX designer Mark Kunievsky puts it, design research is the process of understanding the impact of design on an audience. And I think it sums up all what I mentioned now very well. Obviously, after this brief introduction about user research, we're able to conclude that our work all starts with our users. By collaborating with potential users, we would be practicing a user-centered design, which is crucial to creating a successful product for our users. As you will be researching, though, empathy during research is another key to a user-centered design. Empathy, in this case, means to put aside your own assumptions and instead see things from someone else's perspective. Remember that you are not the user. So when putting the actual user first, you can approach your concepts in a way to make their experience much simpler. This helps the user build an emotional connection between themselves and the product. Now, you might be wondering, why are you starting this practical course with theoretical information? Well, let me tell you what happens when you skip the user research step. Professionally speaking, it may put the organization who you're designing the project for at a disadvantage in the long run. The products you're producing might have great features, but they might not solve the user's problems. The product might not be comfortable for the user to use because false assumptions are placed within the function of the product. The product might also cause confusion for the user. There are so many more instances that you might find yourself facing with the neglection of user design research. While user research informs design, though, it does not immediately provide solutions to problems. This is where the exploration of ideas and design iterations come in to help you reach to the solutions that you need. In addition, there is no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to these things. Just like how a one-size-fits-all clothing garment might fit all sizes, it looks completely different on these different sizes and serves a completely different style to each. It is our job as UX designers to define and understand contexts for the projects that we work on. The criteria that will help you gather the right plans for your project are quite simple, which are be specific, be focused and relevant to what you're trying to understand, make your ideas practical with the resources that you have, and be flexible with your methods. Now, you would approach user research in its early stages by asking yourself questions like, what do users need, or what is already working and what isn't? And after developing your ideas and building wireframes and prototypes, you will need to evaluate your overall work and validate whether your designs are serving their purpose efficiently or not. You do that by asking yourself, do users understand how my product works? Or can the users find out what they're looking for easily, and so on and so forth? So, as a conclusion, we're able to realize that user research is an extremely important part of the UX design. When it is done right, of course, it contributes to a great product experience for its users, which would help them keep coming back to use your products more often.